everyone, I'm Jessica Stutzman and welcome back to the Mill Creek Government Channel. Senior citizens across Erie County have opted to stay home in greater numbers to decrease their likelihood of contracting COVID-19. This practical decision to physically separate for extended periods of time is creating other challenges for seniors, such as increasing feelings of loneliness and reducing physical activity, which can lead to unintentional falls. To combat these challenges, the Erie County Department of Health, in partnership with UPMC and WQLN, launched a new program, Active Elders, at home but not forgotten. Joining me today to discuss physical and mental wellness of our senior citizens is Dr. Mary Kingston, board-certified neurologic clinical specialist and advanced vestibular physical therapist with UPMC Centers for Rehab Services. Mary, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Okay, so we are going to talk a lot about, again, balance issues and maybe seniors taking a spill or a fall, obviously with some really damaging consequences. So again, when I fall down, I'm going to get a bruise and I'm going to get back up and maybe my ego is damaged, but when a senior falls, what kind of consequences do they look at?
Oh, we're looking at catastrophic consequences, really. I mean, the ego becomes bruised too for seniors as well. So we have that, that fear that comes on that they may have even had before they fell. But if they didn't have a fear of falling, now for sure they will. They could get major injury that could lead to hospitalizations, God forbid a nursing home situation, surgery, all of those things that can come of it. So we're really trying to practice preventative medicine and exercise rather than trying to catch up with all that stuff after a fall.
Sure. And I know, in recent years, I've had my grandparents fall and, one ended up with, a really badly bruised face and, maybe a broken nose and then another one with a broken hip. So what kind of things can we do to assess their balance before it gets to that level of falling?
So a balance assessment has become really important for ages 65 and older. Really, anybody can have a balance assessment over the age of 65 because we want to prevent those falls. So basically, we have a battery of tests. I don't like to say the word test because people get afraid of that, but activities and little tasks that we ask people to do that just challenges different skills. Can you go up and down some stairs? Can you stand up from a chair without pushing up, from the armrests, and stand and walk around something, walk over something, walk at a decent speed so that you can actually cross the street safely, those kinds of things, different surfaces. And we try to make it very friendly and fun, so it's a nice experience, but then it gives you the information even if you don't necessarily have a fear of falling. Maybe you're overconfident, maybe you're not confident enough and not doing enough, and it gives you kind of a gauge according to age-related peers where you are on that continuum.
And then who qualifies for a balance assessment?
I think really anybody could, to be honest. I mean, we're talking to seniors right now, but say you're a little bit younger and you have a neurological disease or you have an injury, I mean, anybody can really benefit from it. However, with the population of 65 and older, like I said, sometimes you may not realize you're a fall risk or maybe some skills are slipping that you haven't done in a while. Like say you live in an apartment with an elevator, you haven't had to do stairs in a while, but can you? So you can kind of get in touch with those skills that you should be able to do according to your age. We don't make people do cartwheels and backflips.
Yeah, right.
These are all skills that, at that age, at the age of 70 or 80, you should still be able to do. So that allows us to see where you are and what kind of risk and what kind of fear you should have and what actions you should take.
Yeah. And that's a great point you bring up, the elevator. You can, get out of practice of using the stairs. And, I know, there's usually a standard stair height, but maybe the stairs are a little wider, they're a little deeper, and, you can trip and stumble. So what if somebody doesn't have a concern for falling? Should they still get an assessment done?
I believe so. I think that's where the preventative factor comes in. So even if you don't have a concern for falling, and even if you haven't had a fall, like I said, you could be out of touch with some of those skills you're losing, but also we can establish a baseline, which is kind of nice. So say, you're 67 years old, you're feeling pretty good, but you come in and you get an assessment and we have, all these beautiful numbers, you're doing great, good job, maybe try these exercises to keep it up, And so you can have this preventative program then to say, hey, I'm gonna stay tuned up, but maybe 5 or 10 years down the line, you feel like, ooh, I'm slipping a little, maybe those stairs are getting a little harder, or getting out of the couch is a little, they just suck you in,
Yeah.
So maybe those skills are getting more difficult. So you can come back in and say, hey, we have all your scores from the past, from 5 or 10 years ago. And you can say, hey, how am I doing? And, we can identify where they might need to tune up a little.
Absolutely. And so then who performs the balance assessment?
So there's a lot of people who can actually perform a little balance assessment. I mean, your physician obviously can do that. We have athletic trainers and personal trainers out in the world who, can perform forms of them. As physical therapists, we pride ourselves on movement, and strength and all those good things. That's kind of our wheelhouse. So we like to think we do it well. We actually have the American Physical Therapy Association, who has performed extensive research on, what tests and measures and tasks are the best to identify a fall risk in different age groups too. So it's not like we're comparing you to a 20-year-old.
Right,
we're comparing you to your peers in the 70s and the 80s and the 60s. So that makes it really beneficial. And we do have specialists in the field. So we have generalist physical therapists, just like there are generalist physicians. And then we have specialists, like I have specialized in neurology. So balance is what I do all day long. So I always encourage people to make sure that they're going to, if they choose a physical therapist for a balance assessment, to make sure they're going to somebody who specializes in it or is well-versed in it. Just keeping up with the research is the biggie. We all can do it, but who's keeping up with the research? And if you're specializing elsewhere, then you may not be as up to date.
Okay. And so for the clients that you work with, do you find that some of them, the majority is coming from a physical limitation, or is it kind of like half and half between a neurological condition and a physical limitation?
When I first started with my PT career, it was definitely more impairment based, like people who had already had a fall, already had an injury. And now that we're kind of pushing this preventative, it's a lot of people who are just concerned, hey, I'm losing my balance confidence, or I slipped, I almost fell, this is a problem. I'm really fearful of the winter coming when the ice and the snow, and I really want to see where I'm at. So it's really kind of exciting that it's broadening out.
Right.
Absolutely, we still work with the injuries and the consequences, but I really enjoy when the people come in preventatively,
Right, and then you can get ahead of it. And then I feel like, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like if you can give them preventative tactics, they're stronger for longer. And so when if you do have a slip and fall, maybe it's not as bad as it could have been.
It builds their confidence. We were talking a little bit about how, the fear of falling can be so powerful. I mean, you can run through all these balance tests and have perfect scores and be a star. But if you're fearful of falling, you're a fall risk, actually, just with the fear, just with that mental component of it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to restrict your activities. You're not going to be as active. You're not going to be exercising. You're not going to go for that extra flight of stairs or the stairs at all. You're not going to take those extra steps or, go out and about as much. And so then that creates what we call a negative fall cycle, where that creates a weakness that then puts you at risk for a fall.
That makes perfect sense. Like you're afraid to do it and you stutter step, and then it just gets worse from there.
Yeah, for sure.
What does the balance assessment look like? So you have a patient or a client come in and they're going to get the assessment done. What does that look like for them?
So we call it an evaluation officially. And basically you would, come in the office, and there's some intake forms that we have. We have a couple surveys that ask you questions about your balance confidence. And, mentally you go through these tasks and we see where your confidence level is at. Because that's, again, very important. We need to know where your fear level is, because that can be a fall risk all by itself. And then we, have a conversation, a nice long conversation talking about medical background and your house setup. And, we try to, what medications you're taking, just to see if there's any risks, just, in the environment and those kinds of things. And then we would start with the fun activities. We won't call them tests. The
But I
fun
like activities. So what activities are we doing?
So one of them is actually testing your sense of balance. So it's a really simple test. There's 4 conditions where we have you stand on a firm surface, just like this floor here, with your feet together and arms across the chest, and then you would have your eyes open to see if you can hold that for 30 seconds, and then your eyes closed. So to see like if your inner ear system is okay, as well as your peripheral system with your feet. And then we move on to a compliant surface, like a piece of foam, squishy foam, something like you'd find on grass or sand or something like that. And we have you do feet together, same thing, eyes open, eyes closed, with arms across the chest. And you should be able to confidently hold 30 seconds if all your balance systems are working well together. And then we have people sit in a chair, and we would have them stand and just walk around a cone a few feet away. And there's a normative time for that you should be able to stand up, confidently walk around the cone, sit back down. Standing up and sitting down, repeated 5 times with arms across the chest. No cheating with pushing up.
So I know people at home are going to be practicing like while we're talking. So that's kind of what I want to do right now. I want to stand up and do it while you say it.
Yeah, all kinds of things. We check walking speed to make sure you can safely walk across the street. Walking with. This is an interesting one. Walking with turning your head side to side or looking up and down. So like if you're walking, we have a lot of mall walkers who come see us.
Yeah.
Or you're walking and talking, can you turn your head and talk to somebody and not veer off and lose your balance? Those kinds of things. Or can you look at the sky at the clouds and not fall backwards?
Yes.
Or look down at the floor and not fall forwards.
Yeah. And do you have some clients feeling unsettled when they do that particular activity?
Yeah. And we can also identify inner ear weaknesses with that too.
Absolutely.
Which also happens with aging really frequently. So just in general, it's nothing big and bad. It's just we start to wear out.
That's part of the aging process. Yeah.
Yeah. Things like standing on one foot, stepping over things, little obstacle courses. Heel to toe walking. That's a good one. We say it's the drunk test.
Yeah.
We joke. So,
yeah.
Lots of stairs. Lots of different activities.
Okay. And what if, and again, you could get somebody in their 60s or somebody in their 90s. What if they can't perform the assessment to the fullest, maybe, expectation?
Yes, so we have a lot of tests and measures in our bag of tricks just because of that. So in our interview, we take an extensive interview because we kind of need to get a sense of where people are at with their confidence level, but also with their physiological level. We'll test strength, and some basic things and make sure people have good range of motion and they can perform certain things. So in the research, we have certain tests that are kind of lower level, and then certain tests that are kind of higher level. So we kind of mentally take a note of that. And also what's nice is if we ask you to perform a task, like I said, it's not a backflip. You don't have to worry. If we ask you to perform a task that is too difficult, say the example of standing up from the chair with no hands, if you're trying and it's just not happening, we just say, don't worry about it. That's our information. We need to work on that. The hip flexor and extensor strength and, the biomechanics of that. So if you try and you can't do something, it's perfectly fine.
Right. And are there any modifications that can be done, or you're kind of looking to identify strengths and weaknesses?
We can modify certain things in treatment, but with the actual standardized tests, we can't, because then it's not standardized.
Yes.
So it's basically like, it's not anything that's going to make anybody fall. We have parallel bars, we put people in corners, we're guarding them, we're right there, we're one-on-one with you.
Yeah.
We never really step away in that way. So you don't have to worry about falling during the tests, and we won't face you with anything. But like if something as simple as, you can't stand up out of a chair, then we'll know, hey, that's a score of 0 this time, but we'll keep track. We'll build it up with pillows to try to make it more possible for you when we do the treatment.
Wonderful. Okay. And then, so the assessment is over, and let's say the client has gone back home, and what's your interpretation of everything, of all the results? How do you, filter through what you've just seen?
So we are super lucky because we don't have to come up with that all on our own. We have a great database of all these normative values. So we have all of the statistics with all the age ranges and all the different tests that we have so that we can put people into categories. And what's really nice about that is it's a broad scope of tests. So say you did the stairs like a champ. Perfect, no problem, no railing, up, no problem. But then for some whatever reason, a compliant surface, like stepping over something squishy that you're stepping on was really, kind of a scary thing for you. Then, we can focus on that. And we say, okay, you're a fall risk in this area, but not so much in this area. So you know exactly what to work on and hey, go forth and prosper and be confident in these activities, because you're good.
Yeah. And how long does it take to perform this entire assessment?
We have 45-minute appointments.
Okay.
The first appointment, which would be the balance assessment, is maybe more towards 60 minutes because we ask you to come a little bit earlier to do the paperwork and stuff. But we actually can sometimes give extra time, if we have it, but typically with the therapist, it's 45 minutes. Other companies might have 60, might have 30, but I think about an average is probably 45.
Okay, and then how do you follow up again with the patient? Do you, give them a call and let them know their test results? Do you bring them back in? Do you immediately set up physical therapy moving forward? How does that process go?
It depends. If somebody really just wants to come in for the assessment, we can have the results in real time and we can give them that feedback, and then we give them a home exercise program to help guide them in how they could improve, because sometimes people don't need to come back. They're good to go, they're really good scores, they just need some ideas. And other times if people have a lot of impairments, then we would still be able to give them that feedback, but we would have them, hopefully they'd be willing to come back and work on it to prevent that fall. So.
And is that like a weekly appointment that they would make to return and do physical therapy? Is that the typical average span between appointments then?
Ideally twice a week is our favorite, because we like that consistency, particularly with people who are fall risk, because there's a lot of things that are more challenging they don't feel safe doing at home. So they like to come in and have us guarding using our facilities and our equipment to keep them safe. But we can do once a week where we try to be sensitive to insurances and things like that. Because sometimes if somebody has a really high copay, they just can't afford to come in at the ideal frequency.
Sure, absolutely. So
very individualized.
Yeah, and how do we schedule that initial appointment? How do we schedule future appointments? Who do we call? Where do we go?
So we really, really like you to be in touch with your doctor, your primary care doctor, whoever you're working on, with your balance, if it's your neurologist or anybody like that. So we do have direct access licenses. A lot of us more seasoned therapists who've been doing it a few years. So we can see you for an initial evaluation and the treatment without a doctor's referral. However, a lot of the senior insurances, like the Medicare and Medicare products, do not honor that license. So it's nice to have the doctor in the loop anyway, but just giving your doctor a call, and they might want to see you for a visit, or they might just be willing to give a therapy order if you were there recently. But just ask for, hey, I would like to have a balance assessment with a physical therapist, and if I could have an order for that, and then they can just contact the office.
Okay, and then we talked a lot about fears, because I think the mental wellness and the physical wellness of this all kind of go hand in hand. So how do we mitigate any fears about talking to your doctor, about getting this process started, kind of getting over that hurdle to make sure everybody is being safe at home?
Yeah, I would say the doctors are thrilled that people want to do this. So I've never had a doctor say no. And I've done a lot of these.
And they're not silly for asking.
No, they're not. They're actually really excited. They'd rather have you come to them saying, I'm doing great, or I'm having a little bit of an issue and I want to get ahead of it, than to come have to visit you in the hospital after you have a catastrophic fall and surgery and you're headed to a nursing home. And, it makes them happy to see you be proactive. So they're usually very, very happy to accommodate and do whatever they can to make that happen.
Absolutely. And so I know we were chatting before the show, and one of my family members' falls happened when they were trying to get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. None of the lights were on. Do you have any things that tips or tricks that we can share just that would help our viewers live their everyday lives?
Yeah, absolutely. Active Elders has been really great in giving these kits to help seniors stay safe. and tricks and tips and those kinds of things. So basically, throw rugs are always a no-no. Very much tripping hazards for sure. So you want to get rid of those. Like you were saying, illuminating hallways at night is big because if you can't see, you can't balance. It just really challenges. So there's lots of tripping hazards you can have. So those night lights that turn on automatically when it becomes dark are really slick because you don't even have to worry about turning them on, every night before. Really getting a balance assessment to making sure, to make sure that you're using the right assistive device, like if you're using a cane, because sometimes canes and walkers can become tripping hazards and actually do more harm than good.
Okay.
So working with a therapist or your doctor and actually learning how to use that can really help to decrease falls. And just, making sure you're in touch with loved ones, like, if you go out, let them know. If you're going out on the ice and snow, anything like that, just be in touch with people so that they can help you.
Right. Have your cell phone on you or one of those alert systems.
Those alerts, and a lot of these Apple Watches and these smartwatches actually, they remove the stigma of having those fall alerts on there because they're just a smartwatch. But mine does. Mine, if I fall, it would call 911.
Oh my gosh.
So it's really a neat thing what technology is doing too.
Absolutely. And I illuminate, I think, every room with a night light. I do have a toddler, but for different reasons, we don't need tripping and falling. And again, in our situation, we have a baby gate to make sure nobody goes down the stairs. But I think all of it's helpful if that's a concern, if that's a risk for you. You have been doing this work at least since 2020 when this program started, and now it's, when the pandemic really unfolded, and now it's 2022. What kind of growth have you seen with this program?
It's been really exciting because I've had a lot of people come into the office and say, hey, I saw you on TV, or I saw those videos, or, oh, that Active Elders, they're talking about it. It's really neat. They talk about the kits they received, they talk about the videos they watched, and all the tips, and just the knowledge of what they can do to prevent falls, and coming to PT, and that's a thing that people do, not just when you're injured, but actually before you're injured to prevent things. So it's been very exciting to see the uptick in referrals and people who just come in and say, hey, I just saw the TV.
And where can we get those kits? Do you have a couple locations? I know Mill Creek Township, our building, is a hub for those kits for our Active Elders. Are there any other locations around town where we can go pick them up or at least make the request for one?
I believe, the Mill Creek Education Center, correct? And then
the Mill Creek Township building.
Yep, I know that one. And then the Department of Health, I believe, also has.
Okay, great. And what's your contact information? So, if viewers have any questions about, I just saw your program on TV, I want to talk about it, I have a couple questions before I ask, reach out to my doctor. How can people, reach out and get in touch with you or just learn more information about this?
Sure. I work at the Centers for Rehab Services that is on 26 on Brown Avenue. It's right sharing a parking lot with the Whole Foods Co-op. We are going to be moving though, so we're going to be moving still a little bit further west on 26th Street. So we'll give you that information. But so my name is Mary Kingston again, and then we also have another neurologic specialist at the 26th Street office named Victoria Lavery. And then we have also an assistant, Nakia, who helps us. So we have a great team going on there, and a couple other fill-in therapists here and there. And then on the Nagel Road, right next to the Y on Nagel Road, there's a Harbor Creek office that also specializes in neurology with Amanda Daly and her assistant Amanda Work. So my phone number I have memorized. It's 814-452-4447. That's the 26th Street office. So, and then we can certainly, if you live on the east side of town, we can get you hooked up with the east side office as well.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Without naming any names or anything like that, can you share a success story that you've seen come from this program or from informing senior citizens on how to better take care of their balance and prevent tripping and falls?
Yeah. Well, my dad, who actually was featured on some of the videos, he has some friends who have, of course they were excited to watch him. So they became interested and they actually came to the clinic, and I was able to identify that one of them really was having an excessively hard time with uneven surfaces and actually has low vision. So we were able to kind of hook her up with the vision the Low Vision Center in Erie, which is really exciting, and also just be able to navigate things better.
Yeah.
So she was really grateful because she lives by herself,
Yeah.
you know, so
Yeah, so that
it's
makes a
really
world
a
of
high
difference.
risk, you know. So it was really a game changer for her because now she can stay independent in her house that she's been in for years, and that was really a win for her. So
Yes,
that was
yeah.
exciting.
And like I said, that does make a huge difference. And we know seniors are staying at home still because of the pandemic. You know, it's not officially over. We do know someone, is contacting and, weekly still coming down with COVID and whatnot. So we know people are staying home and we're going into the winter flu and cold season. So that adds a layer to it. So I just want to thank you for being here today with us and sharing all this information, great information on balance assessment and risk of falling and what we can do to prevent all of that.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate the opportunity to get it out there because that's how we make the difference.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Viewers, we just had a really informative show today, again, about balance assessment and mitigating any fears you have about reaching out to your doctor to get any of those activities or any of those assessments done. So I really encourage you, if you're over the age of 65 or anyone with a disorder that may have you have any balance issues, to reach out to your doctor. And I hope that some of the videos we've shared have inspired you to work on this and look into this. And even if you're just getting a baseline assessment now, it may help you in the future. So I want to thank you for tuning into the Mill Creek Government Channel. And until next time, have a great day.